I've had a lot of people asking me how to maintain these types of flutes as a um, as a maker. There are so many different makers who make flutes and finish them with different finishes. So you should connect with each one or check their website, see what the best way to care for them is. Over time, they may adjust, they may change, like I have. I've always suggested tongue oil mixed with tea tree oil in my flutes, and there's a flute maker forum, and I saw a couple times that tongue oil really requires sunlight to cure, and I found that out by having a large amount of tongue oil, which was expensive, in a large clear tub, and it all started hardening, even though it was all sealed, but it was clear, so the sunlight was able to get into it, and it started hardening. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually a thing. So if you um, are wanting to treat your flute after you've played it a while and you want to give it some love and give it some care, um, I suggest working with an oil that will dry without needing sunlight. I believe like an almond oil, walnut oil would be a good. Those would be good oils, and I suggest mixing just a couple drops of tea tree oil in there just to make sure to kill any bacteria or any mold growing inside the flute, because it is a little cave. It's a damp area that you're breathing into all the time. So um, that's what I kind of suggest. Get a little dropper bottle, take off your block, put enough that you can kind of swish it around in there, and then dump it out, and then you can shake it out. And that will be a good way to kind of clean up that area. And you really don't need to do much to the inside of the bore. You could if you wanted to. And the way to do that is to use a gun cleaning kit, like a gun rod that allows you to put a little rag on the end of it and put some oil on the rag and just swab it out. Um, Use a Q-tip in the holes if you want to do that. That's how I finish these. And if you want to do the outside, for my particular flutes, I do a shellac and then an oil. So I suggest using an oil to I use like an oil wax that's called Odie's oil. I'll put a link down in the description of where you can find it. And you just put it on and then you buff it off. So use a really soft cloth and just wipe it all back off, and it'll give it a new nice coat. And you can do that, every so often if you feel it needs it. And like 3 6 months, whatever you feel it needs it, because you're really just trying to protect the outside of it. It shouldn't really affect the playability or the sound as far as that. The other thing is about maintenance of these flutes is if you play for like 15 minutes, you get a lot of moisture in there. Just untie the block and just slide it back and just let it rest there so that you can open up that area to let it dry out. You could take a little, like a soft cloth, and just wipe out the moisture in there and just put it on a rack if you have it with it still off like that to let it dry. Um, with drone flutes, you could do the same thing. It's a little more challenging with the way that I make the totems with the holes through them. A lot of people like the holes through them, but it makes it challenging to take the blocks on and off. So you could try and just slide it back or slide it forward to open up that space. Or you could untie it and then retie it. It does take a little bit of time. So that's the basics of maintaining them. I will say, like, the inside of my bore, I use shellac, and shellac isn't waterproof. So then I go over it with a polyurethane, and I do that just on the inside of the flute because you are putting a lot of moisture in there. I really want to seal it and protect it and give it the longevity that the flutes deserve. I don't want them to break or have any issues, relatively quickly. So I protect it as much as I can on the inside. If you prefer not having that, I have no problem finishing it with tongue oil. It'll just take a little extra time to do it while it's finished or while it's open, split before I glue it together. I'll have to do it and then let it dry over a week or 2 weeks. But that is something I could do if you don't want polyurethane or something unnatural inside your flute. Um, So I hope they gave you guys a good idea of how to maintain your flutes. If you guys have any questions, put them down in the comments or shoot me an email through my website. And yeah, I hope that helped, and have a beautiful rest of your day.